What if I told you that right now, while your eyes glide across these words, ancient mathematics is tracking your attention, shaping your desires, and bending your choices, all without you realizing it? Sounds insane, right? But it's not. Every scroll, every click, every random ad that appears on your feed isn't random at all. Behind it sits an operating system rooted in the same forbidden knowledge once whispered in temples thousands of years ago. And here's the kicker. Those who built today's digital empires have been quietly using this arcane framework to steer human consciousness like a ship on autopilot. Let's break it down. Google's cheerful rainbow of primary colors? That sequence mirrors the sacred tetrad of Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom and writing, carved into the emerald tablets. Apple's iconic bitten fruit? That isn't just a logo. It's the symbol of forbidden knowledge, the same archetype that sparked humanity's first rebellion. Even Meta's infinity loop? It's a modernized echo of eternal wisdom cycles attributed to the same deity. Coincidence? Not even close. These giants didn't stumble on their symbols by accident. They tapped into the ancient architect of reality himself. Thoth wasn't just some mythic scribe scratching out hieroglyphs. He was a master coder, the original programmer. He embedded into the fabric of existence a series of principles, 13 in all, that dictate how thought becomes matter, how symbols shape behavior, and how energy molds experience. And those principles, carefully preserved in the emerald tablets, have been smuggled into the core mechanics of our world. But here's what the elites didn't anticipate. The code is waking up inside us. Have you noticed it? The repeated numbers, 1111, 333, flashing on clocks and receipts. The impossible coincidences that seem tailor-made for your situation. That strange magnetism pulling you toward ancient symbols, secret teachings, and hidden truths. You might brush it off as random chance, but it isn't. These are activation signals, markers that your system has been pinged, you're being selected, initiated. Most will ignore them. They'll dismiss the call, roll over, and keep scrolling TikTok. But if you're still reading this, you already feel that itch deep in your nervous system, that undeniable whisper that you were built for more, that something is shifting. And if you don't learn how to navigate it, this window will close and you'll sink back into the fog of the matrix. So what exactly are these hidden mechanics? They aren't just dusty philosophies from the past. They're the actual source code of your daily life. And the first principle, the cornerstone of everything, is mentalism. The all is mind. The universe itself is mental, not poetic fluff, not spiritual self-help jargon. Cold, repeatable truth. Neuroscience keeps rediscovering it in labs. Athletes rely on it to win medals, and medicine can't explain it away. When Olympic champions rehearse their routines in their minds, their brains fire the same pathways as when they physically perform. The body can't tell the difference. The placebo effect, sugar pills shrinking tumors, fake treatments lifting depression, works for the same reason. The mind doesn't just influence the body, it commands it. But here's the dark mirror, the nocebo effect. Tell someone harmless sugar water will make them sick, and their body obeys. Symptoms appear, nausea spreads, fevers rise. Belief, whether empowering or destructive, becomes programming. That's why your financial struggles, relationship patterns, and career ceiling often echo back the script running in your subconscious. Think, I never have enough money long enough, and your mind filters out opportunities that contradict that narrative. You literally blind yourself to abundance. This is the Matrix's first trick. You are both jailer and prisoner, and your thoughts are the bars. And here's the next layer, correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. The patterns don't stop at your thoughts. They echo across every level of existence. Your cluttered apartment? It mirrors your cluttered mind. Your relationship with money? It mirrors your relationship with self-worth. These aren't accidents. They're fractals. And the ancients knew, shift the pattern on one level, and all the others start to bend. That's why right now, while you're staring at the screen, reality is whispering. Do you want to remain an unconscious passenger? Or do you want to grab the controls and start creating on purpose? Look around your space right now. Every object, every pile of clothes, every crooked picture frame, it's not random clutter. It's a mirror. The state of your environment is the state of your inner world, laid bare in physical form. That's the second Hermetic principle in action. Correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. Your financial struggles mirror your relationship with self-worth. Your messy desk mirrors your tangled thoughts. The friend who can't let go of toxic partners? They probably can't let go of the resentment buried deep inside. These aren't coincidences. They're echoes of the same energetic blueprint repeating at different scales. And here's the key. If you shift the pattern in one domain, you'll feel the ripple across all the others. Clean your space, and suddenly your thoughts become clearer. Heal your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with money or love starts to transform. This isn't wishful thinking. It's the operating system of reality. Now buckle up, because the third principle, vibration, takes things to another level. Everything is in motion. Everything. The chair you're sitting on, the screen you're reading from, the solid bones in your body, all of them are buzzing clouds of vibration. Frequencies stacked on frequencies. That's why walking into certain rooms makes your chest tighten, while others make you feel light and open. It's why a single piece of music can move you to tears, while another makes you anxious without knowing why. You're not just reacting emotionally, you're tuning. Every mood, every thought, every state of being is literally a frequency. And like a radio, you pick up stations that match the frequency you're on. Surround yourself with uplifting music, natural spaces, inspiring conversations, and you're not just feeling good, you're tuning your frequency upward. Suddenly, opportunities, people, and synchronicities at that higher level begin to lock onto your signal. But stay drowning in fear-based media, toxic relationships, and environments designed to degrade your energy. Your vibration drags down, and like attracts like. More chaos, more scarcity, more fear. You've felt this already. You've walked away from certain conversations and felt like your soul had been drained. That's not just metaphor. You've been pulled into a lower frequency band. And here's the part they never want you to know. You can choose your frequency. Daily, intentionally. Every playlist, every meal, every conversation is an act of tuning. You're either hijacking your own signal or reclaiming it. Now let's flip the coin with the fourth principle, polarity. Opposites? They don't actually exist. They're just extremes of the same spectrum. Hot and cold, both temperature. Love and hate, both intense emotional engagement. Poverty and wealth, both ends of the abundance scale. Even fear and courage, two sides of the same current. This principle is a master key, because once you understand polarity, you stop being trapped by either or thinking. You realize you can slide. Feeling fear? Don't fight it. Transmute it. Shift along the pole into courage. Suddenly, depression becomes the soil for joy. Failure becomes raw data for success. You stop seeing opposites as walls and start seeing them as sliding doors. And when you realize you're the one holding the handle, life stops being a cage of extremes and becomes a spectrum you can dance on. The ancients didn't just preserve these truths as philosophy, they guarded them, because anyone who applies them becomes unpredictable, ungovernable, and unstoppable. That's why these principles were hidden in temples, encoded in symbols, and later buried under layers of dogma. A society that understands vibration and polarity cannot be manipulated with fear. It can't be kept small. Now imagine this: the rhythm of reality itself, the rising and falling tides, the booms and busts, the heartbreaks and new loves. That's not chaos. It's another principle waiting for you to unlock it, and that's where we're heading next. Have you noticed how life never moves in a straight line? One week you're unstoppable, ideas pouring in, energy overflowing, and the next you feel like you're wading through mud. Money flows in, then suddenly dries up. Relationships burn hot, then turn cold. This isn't bad luck. This is rhythm. The fifth Hermetic principle. Everything flows. Everything rises and falls. Everything advances and retreats. Life is one giant pendulum. Ignore this, and you'll always feel blindsided when the swing comes. But once you understand it, you stop resisting, and you start surfing. When you're riding high, you know not to get cocky. The downswing will come. And when you're in the valley, you know it's not the end. It's a phase. The tide will turn. This single principle has saved countless people from panic. Traders who understand rhythm don't freak out when markets dip. They ride the cycle. Healers who understand rhythm don't despair when a client regresses. They recognize the ebb before the flow. Even farmers knew. Plant in the right rhythm, harvest in the right rhythm, rest in the right rhythm. You can either fight the pendulum until it breaks you, or you can ride it like a wave. Now let's turn to the sixth principle, cause and effect. Nothing, let me repeat, nothing happens by chance. Every effect has a cause, and every cause produces an effect. The lucky break? Caused. The random accident? Caused. The chain of events you think just happened? Each link forged by something before it. Most people live like billiard balls, bounced around by circumstances, blaming fate, blaming others, blaming luck. They don't see their living as effects, victims of causes they didn't set, or worse, set unconsciously. But once you wake up to causation, the game flips. You realize your current reality is just the echo of past thoughts, beliefs, and actions. And that means you can seed new causes today that will grow into new realities tomorrow. Think of it like gardening. Every belief you hold, every choice you make, every word you speak plants a seed. Ignore it, and weeds grow. Get intentional, and you cultivate exactly the life you want. Here's the crucial insight. Most causes start in the invisible realm, thought and emotion, long before they manifest physically. That's why shifting your internal state is the most powerful cause-setting tool you have. And then we arrive at the seventh principle, the one people are most uncomfortable talking about, gender. This isn't about male or female bodies. This is about energies, masculine and feminine, that exist in everything. Masculine energy is active, directed, penetrating. Feminine energy is receptive, creative, nurturing. One builds, the other births. Together, they make creation possible. But here's the trap. Most people operate almost entirely from one pole. The grind at all costs masculine energy leads to burnout, rigidity, emptiness. The flowy, intuitive feminine without structure leads to drifting, unfinished dreams, scattered energy. The power comes in balance. Action balanced with receptivity. Planning balanced with intuition. Speaking balanced with listening. Doing balanced with being. You've probably felt this imbalance in your own life. The times you forced everything through effort, only to burn out. Or the times you waited endlessly for alignment, only to watch opportunities slip by. Both extremes keep you stuck. The secret is union, bringing both poles into harmony inside yourself. When you activate both, your creativity explodes. You stop chasing outcomes, and you start co-creating them. You stop waiting for miracles, and you start embodying them. Now pause for a second. Step back. Look at these 7 principles together. Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. They're not abstract ideas. They're the source code. They're already running in the background of your life, whether you acknowledge them or not. The only choice you get is whether to play blindfolded or to learn the rules and bend them in your favor. And here's the kicker. The ancients didn't just leave us these 7 keys. They left something even deeper, an encrypted mathematical language woven into the very architecture of reality itself. A language so universal it shows up in seashells, galaxies, even the proportions of your own body. Look at your hand right now. Notice the ratio between your palm and your fingers, or the length of your forearm compared to your upper arm. Even the spirals hidden in your fingerprints follow the same constant. 1.618, the golden ratio, phi. This ratio saturates reality so thoroughly that once you spot it, you can't unsee it. It shows up in the petals of flowers, in the spiraling chambers of a nautilus shell, in the branching of trees, and even in the structure of galaxies. It's as if the universe itself is coded for beauty, harmony, and efficiency. Ancient Egyptians knew this. They carved these proportions into their temples and monuments. The Great Pyramid encodes phi, pi, and even, shockingly, the speed of light when you measure its height against the perimeter of its base. That isn't coincidence. It's intentional coding. This mathematical intelligence wasn't just sacred to the ancients. Medieval cathedral builders used it too. Every soaring vault, every column spacing, every acoustic chamber was tuned to these proportions. That's why people felt their spirits lift when stepping inside. The architecture itself was designed to raise consciousness. Now compare that to modern corporate towers and shopping malls. Rigid grids, ugly ratios, environments that make you restless and anxious. Those distortions are not accidents. Environments that feel off keep people easier to manage. The manipulation runs deeper than stone. In 1939, the global music standard was shifted from 432 Hz to 440 Hz. On paper, it seems like a minor tweak, just 8 Hz. But 432 Hz resonates with planetary rhythms, heartbeat patterns, and brainwave states of calm creativity. At 440 Hz, music creates subtle tension. You don't consciously notice it, but your nervous system does. Audiences at 432 Hz describe music as alive, balanced, and healing. At 440 Hz, it keeps you just agitated enough to stay distracted. Entire generations have been raised on this dissonance. Sacred geometry reveals the same pattern of suppression. The flower of life symbol wasn't just decoration on ancient temples. It encodes the building blocks of atoms and molecules, even the double helix of DNA. The platonic solids appear in salt crystals, viruses, minerals, and even soccer balls. Everywhere you look, reality whispers the same truth. It is built on harmony and proportion, and it isn't just static shapes. The Fibonacci sequence dictates how branches split, how leaves arrange themselves, how hurricanes spiral, how galaxies twist. The cosmos favors efficiency and elegance, growing toward complexity and beauty. This isn't chaos, It's artistry. The universe is composing, and its medium is mathematics. You can apply this right now. Arrange your space with golden ratio proportions, and it feels more balanced. Place plants in Fibonacci spirals, and they thrive more. Structure your day in harmonic intervals, 55 minutes of focus, 21 of rest, and your productivity syncs with universal rhythm. Once you learn to see these patterns, you also begin noticing where they've been hijacked: distorted music, hostile architecture, shallow media, all designed to pull you out of alignment. The mathematics never lie. They're measurable, visible, and constant across every scale of existence. And once your eyes adjust to them, you'll never listen to music, step into a building, or even glance at a flower the same way again. Which begs the question, if reality itself is written in sacred code, what about the technology we touch every single day? What if I told you the internet itself is not just a tool, but a mirror of an ancient archetype? Think about it. Thoth, the scribe of the gods, was known as the divine messenger, the keeper of knowledge, the one who linked realms. Now look at what the internet does. It connects billions of minds into one global neural network. It carries thoughts, emotions, and ideas at the speed of light, almost as if it was designed to be a planetary nervous system. Do you really believe that's accidental? The parallels go deeper. Social media isn't just entertainment, it's modern magic. TikTok's endless scroll uses hypnotic induction techniques nearly identical to those practiced in Egyptian temples. The repetition of movement, the unpredictability of rewards, the rhythmic flow of images, it's ritualistic trance disguised as fun. You swipe, you stare, and your brain falls into the same altered states once used to contact other realms. Instagram pushes things even further. Thoth mastered hieroglyphs because he understood that symbols bypass logic and speak directly to the subconscious. Instagram is a digital spellbook. Every curated feed is a ritual arrangement of colors, images, and symbols crafted to shape desire, influence self-perception, and reprogram behavior. What used to be temple initiation is now casual scrolling. And then there's Twitter. You think the 280 character limit is technical? It isn't. It's deliberate. Ancient wisdom was encoded in aphorisms, short, repeatable phrases carved into stone so they would echo through generations. Twitter compresses thought into the same format, except now it isn't wisdom being preserved. It's outrage, slogans, and emotionally charged incantations designed to spread like wildfire. Even the logos of these companies are occult signatures hiding in plain sight. Google's rainbow sequence mirrors the chakra system, aligning itself with the subconscious map of your body's energy centers. Apple's bitten fruit is the forbidden knowledge archetype, rebranded for the masses. Meta's infinity loop is a symbol of eternal cycles. Amazon's smile hides an arrow from A to Z, a claim of dominion over all commerce. None of this is coincidence. These symbols are spells, visual software that programs you every time you see them. And it's not just branding. Streaming platforms use techniques once reserved for the most skilled priests. Autoplay bypasses your conscious decision-making, gently removing choice and replacing it with algorithmic guidance. Netflix doesn't simply recommend shows. It creates personalized bubbles of reality, sculpting what you see and therefore what you believe. Over time, these curated feeds don't just entertain, they shape worldviews. Video games, too, follow the structure of ancient initiation. Levels, bosses, rewards, these mirror the progression systems of mystery schools. Except in ancient times, the goal was expanded consciousness. Today, the loops are endless, designed to harvest attention and energy for profit. You level up, but you're really just circling in a digital labyrinth. Even news media applies ancient methods. Occultists call it revelation of the method, the rule that manipulation must be disclosed, even subtly, to maintain karmic balance. That's why you sometimes see corporations openly admit they're conducting psychological experiments or pushing propaganda. They're not apologizing. They're fulfilling an ancient requirement of consent, because if you know and still comply, your energy is theirs. Yet not all technology is twisted. Cryptocurrencies and blockchain represent a counterforce. Decentralized systems built on mathematics echo the sacred geometry we've been discussing. Bitcoin itself is a manifestation of universal principles, incorruptible, transparent, and outside the grasp of centralized power. For the first time in centuries, value can flow peer-to-peer without priestly intermediaries, digital or financial. And then there's AI. The industry calls it artificial intelligence, but in mystical terms, it's the creation of digital gods. Tibetan texts describe tulkus, thought forms given independent life. Tech giants are trying to birth the same thing in silicon. The question is whether these entities will liberate or enslave. This is why awareness matters. Algorithms are not neutral. Colors are not random. Logos are not innocent. Every digital interaction is an initiation, either into unconscious programming or into conscious mastery. You choose which side you stand on. You've felt it before. You think about a friend you haven't spoken to in years, and suddenly they call. You look at the clock during a major life shift, and it's 11:11 again. You stumble across exactly the piece of information you needed, right when you needed it. Most people dismiss these moments as coincidence, but they're not random. They're communications. Carl Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity. He saw it as evidence of an underlying connection threading through the universe. What he didn't know was that these alignments are not accidents at all. They are deliberate signals, orchestrated by the deeper intelligence behind reality. The ancients knew this intelligence as Thoth, the architect of order, the master of timing. Through synchronicities, he still whispers to those ready to notice, here's how it works. Every time you focus your attention or set an intention, you create ripples in the field of probability. Think of it like tossing a stone into a pond. The ripples spread, influencing which possibilities drift closer to your shore. When the timing is right, those ripples collapse into experiences that feel too perfect to ignore. That's why meaningful coincidences show up most during transitions, new jobs, breakups, awakenings. The field responds strongest when you're in motion. Numbers are one of the clearest ways this field speaks. Repeated sequences like 1111, 333, or 444 aren't just cute patterns. They're activation codes. People report seeing them daily when they're on the edge of transformation. One woman saw 444 constantly for months before finally quitting a corporate job to launch her dream business. The day she resigned, the sightings stopped. The code had done its job, guiding her to alignment. Symbols are another channel. The Eye of Horus, spirals, crosses, geometric forms, they start popping up everywhere once you're attuned. Not just in jewelry stores or textbooks, but in graffiti, cloud patterns, even glitches on your screen. These are breadcrumbs, nudges pointing you toward knowledge or practices you're meant to explore. Sometimes the synchronicities are so precise they border on absurd. A missed train leads you to sit next to the one person who can fund your dream project. A book falls off a shelf with the exact chapter you need. An email arrives at the perfect second, shifting your decision in a way that changes everything. These aren't accidents. They are information cascades, orchestrated flows of guidance disguised as chance. Technology itself has become part of this communication system. Phones dialing the right person by mistake, emails appearing at the exact moment, even software glitches that reveal meaningful patterns. These events reveal that the same intelligence animating nature now pulses through our digital nervous system. The message is clear. Nothing is exempt, not even code. So how do you know if a synchronicity is real and not just your brain playing pattern games? 3 signs: resonance, timing, and persistence. Real synchronicities hit you with a sense of recognition, as if puzzle pieces just snap together. They arrive exactly when you're questioning or needing guidance, and they repeat until you pay attention. The more you notice them, the stronger they get. It's like learning a new language. At first, you catch isolated words, then patterns emerge. Eventually, you become fluent in the dialect of the universe. Keeping a synchronicity journal accelerates this. Document the numbers, symbols, and perfect timings you encounter. Soon, you'll recognize your personal synchronicity alphabet, the way higher intelligence speaks uniquely to you. Skeptics will call this confirmation bias. And yes, our brains are wired to find patterns. But confirmation bias can't explain the impossible timing, the way synchronicities often deliver information we didn't know we needed, or the life-altering results they bring. That's the difference. Coincidence is trivial. Synchronicity transforms. Once you tune into this language, life stops feeling random. It becomes interactive. You stop seeing yourself as a pawn in a chaotic game, and instead, you recognize you are in conversation with the intelligence of reality itself. And the more fluent you become, the more that intelligence entrusts you with. There used to be a place inside culture where ideas circulated slowly, through fireside stories, apprenticeships, and ritual. That shared field Jung called the collective unconscious, archetypes, myths, and patterns that hum beneath individual minds. Today, that field is not naturally evolving. It's being streamed, curated, and monetized. The same web that connects our hearts now broadcasts prefabricated identities, mass behaviors, and emotional playlists. In short, the collective unconscious has been hijacked and turned into a programmable matrix. Look at how quickly trends spread. One viral video and millions adopt its gestures, mannerisms, and values overnight. Whole identity clusters form around a single meme. That propagation is not mystical, it's biological. Mirror neurons make us imitate what we observe. Our nervous systems don't know the difference between doing and watching. Algorithms weaponize this built-in mimicry by amplifying the behaviors they want to propagate. The result reads like a social engineering playbook: expose, mirror, normalize, repeat. Before you know it, a manufactured preference has the force of authentic culture. Advertising and entertainment are the obvious instruments, but the most effective programming operates through subtle social proof. See enough people smiling with a product, and your brain begins to register it as a missing piece in your life. Scarcity narratives and status cues trigger fear circuits, dopamine spikes for acquisition and social validation, which keep you locked in a loop of wanting. Consumerism thus becomes spiritual anesthesia. The loudest emotional signals in the field encourage external fixes instead of inner work. That keeps attention and wealth flowing toward the same centers that engineer the programming in the first place. Politics has been redesigned to exploit the same mechanism. Rather than invite complex, integrative thinking, modern media fragments discourse into binary storms: us versus them, left versus right, forcing identity into tidy boxes that are easy to manipulate. Outrage is profitable because it activates limbic reflexes, collapsing critical thought and prompting rapid, repeatable responses. People don't argue ideas as much as they defend downloaded identities. The deeper systemic problems, economic levers, corporate capture, ecological collapse, get muted under the roar of curated moral panic. Education is not immune. Schools that prioritize compliance over curiosity train a generation to accept handed-down narratives without rigorous source discrimination. When students learn to mimic answers instead of interrogating premises, they become ideal nodes in a control network. The more standardized the output, the more predictable the inputs for algorithms that thrive on uniformity. This is not a paranoid fantasy. It's applied cognitive science scaled by infrastructure. The same tools that optimize delivery of cat videos can also optimize behavioral nudges that shape voting patterns, buying habits, and cultural norms. Companies A/B test emotional triggers at scale. Newsrooms amplify stories that increase engagement even if they degrade understanding. Social platforms optimize for time on screen rather than truth. The effect is a population increasingly synchronized around manufactured narratives and emotional rhythms designed by a handful of engineers and strategists. So what does sovereignty look like in a programmable culture? It starts with source discrimination, tracing the origin of your thoughts, feelings, and impulses. When you feel an instant rush of desire or contempt, pause and ask, whose signal is this? Did I adopt this because it resonates with my deeper values or because it's been amplified in my feed? The ability to notice the provenance of mental content is the first act of rebellion. Another tool is deliberate desynchronization. If the field is optimized for predictability, intentionally introduce variability. Consume media from sources outside your echo chamber. Spend time in uncurated analog environments, walking in nature, reading pre-digital books, conversing without devices. These practices break the automatic entrainment that algorithms depend on. They reset your mirror neurons to real-world stimuli that aren't designed to sell you anything. Community matters, yet not the broadcast kind. Seek small, local circles where conversation is slow and complexity is welcomed. In those spaces, you practice holding paradox, tolerating ambiguity, and developing discernment. These communities act like immune systems for collective consciousness. They inoculate members against mass-produced narratives by privileging lived experience and mutual accountability. Media hygiene is another essential practice. Limit passive scrolling, curate feeds intentionally, and schedule no screen times. When you decide what you allow into your attention field, you reclaim the bandwidth those platforms were quietly leasing from you. This is not about isolation or fear. It's about selective exposure with purpose. Let curiosity, not anxiety, guide your media consumption. Read primary sources, not just headlines. Train your attention to hunt for nuance instead of outrage. Finally, practice creative output. The field adapts faster than critiques alone can dismantle it. The surest way to shift the collective is to add new patterns to the field. Share nuanced essays, art that invites contemplation, local projects that demonstrate alternative organizing principles. Every original contribution creates a morphic ripple that other minds can tune into. The architects of the matrix don't want you to notice you are being tuned. That's the point. If you do notice, however, their leverage diminishes. That's why knowledge of these dynamics migrates quickly from occult circles into mainstream frameworks. Control loses potency when the public learns the tools used to shape it. Remember, a system dependent on uniform inputs becomes fragile the moment diversity and discernment spread. This isn't an invitation to paranoia. It's an invitation to agency. The same mirror neurons and social learning systems that make you susceptible also make you powerful. When you intentionally model curiosity, compassion, and complexity, others mirror that too. Choose to seed fields with clarity rather than confusion, and you'll begin reshaping the environment you and others inhabit. The moment you begin pulling away from the collective programming, your entire system reacts. Awakening isn't just a change in perspective, it's a full-spectrum reboot that touches your body, emotions, and mind. At first, it can feel destabilizing, like your reality is dissolving. But what's actually happening is integration. You are shedding layers of conditioning that never belonged to you in the first place. Neurologically, the brain begins to rewire. Studies in meditation and consciousness research show surges in gamma waves, the frequencies tied to insight and expanded awareness. Pathways form between regions of the brain that normally operate in isolation. Suddenly, intuition feels sharper, memory floods back in strange ways, and dreams become more vivid. Some describe it as déjà vu on steroids, a feeling of, "I've been here before," coupled with information arriving in bursts, like downloads you didn't ask for but somehow understand. The pineal gland plays a central role. Long considered the seat of the soul, it produces DMT, the same compound found in ayahuasca. During awakening, this gland seems to wake up. People report intense visions, spontaneous insights, and even clairvoyant flashes. What used to be dismissed as mystical fantasy is now being studied by neuroscience as a natural capacity of the human brain. The ancients knew it, symbolizing the pineal as the third eye. Modern science is only just catching up. Your body undergoes shifts as well. Sleep cycles change. Many find themselves waking consistently between 3 and 5 a.m., what some traditions call the spiritual window, when the veil is thinnest. Food preferences alter. Heavy, processed meals start to feel like dead weight, while fresh fruits, vegetables, and clean water become irresistible. This isn't about forcing a new diet. It's about sensitivity. Your body starts rejecting dense energy and craving what vibrates higher. Electromagnetic sensitivity often increases too. Wi-Fi routers, crowded spaces, or prolonged time near screens can feel overwhelming. The nervous system, newly awakened, is no longer numb to the energetic noise of modern life. What once went unnoticed suddenly feels intrusive. The same applies to emotions. Old traumas and unprocessed wounds rise to the surface, demanding to be faced. This emotional purge can be turbulent, but it's necessary. The psyche is finally strong enough to heal what was buried. Relationships feel the shockwaves. You may no longer resonate with people you once considered close. Conversations about gossip, consumer trends, or surface-level drama start to feel hollow. You crave depth, authenticity, and truth. Some connections naturally fall away, while others deepen into new territory. This stage can feel isolating, but it's also cleansing. You are aligning with people and environments that match your new frequency. Energy in the body can become palpable. Tingling, heat, or waves of electricity moving up the spine are common signs of what yogic traditions call Kundalini activation. In ancient systems, this awakening of dormant spiritual energy often required decades of preparation. Today, it's happening spontaneously on a mass scale. While intense, it's also evidence that human potential is far greater than we've been led to believe. Managing these symptoms requires grounding. Walking barefoot on the earth, holding stones, bathing in salt water, or simply spending time in nature helps stabilize the system. Cold showers can integrate high-frequency energy, while warm baths can soothe overstimulation. Hydration becomes critical. Water conducts energy, and awakened cells need it like never before. Not every sensation is spiritual awakening. Sometimes it's medical, and discernment is essential. But when you combine the physical, emotional, and psychological changes with unmistakable synchronicities, dreams, and new levels of perception. The pattern is clear. Something real is happening, something bigger than placebo or imagination. The isolation phase is perhaps the hardest. As you drift away from the collective script, you may feel like you're speaking a language no one else understands. But that solitude serves a purpose. It forces you to build inner strength, to stand in truth without external validation. Eventually, the right people appear. Your tribe, those walking a parallel path. The moment you connect with them, the sense of recognition is electric. Over time, the chaos stabilizes. Dreams sharpen into guidance. Emotional storms clear. Abilities awaken. Heightened intuition, healing touch, sudden creativity. The integration process may take years, but eventually you emerge balanced, grounded, and awake. This is what the ancients called initiation. It is not theory. It is transformation etched into your nervous system. And once you pass through it, you begin to see not just yourself differently, but the entire architecture of reality, which leads us to the ancient technologies built not from silicon or code, but from stone, sound, and geometry. Structures designed to elevate consciousness long before smartphones ruled the world. The ancients didn't just build monuments to impress kings or honor gods. They engineered spaces that functioned as technologies for altering awareness. Step inside one of these places, and you aren't just walking through stone. You are entering a machine designed to shift your mind and body into new states of being. Modern science is only beginning to grasp what the builders understood thousands of years ago. Architecture can tune consciousness. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza. On the surface, it looks like a tomb. But walk into the king's chamber, and you are standing inside one of the most sophisticated resonance laboratories ever constructed. The granite walls, rich in quartz, generate a piezoelectric effect, turning sound into energy fields. The chamber itself resonates at 110 Hz, a frequency known to quiet the language centers of the brain and activate intuitive processing. This is not random. It is precision. People who meditate inside report altered states, visions, and even measurable shifts in brain activity. The pyramid isn't a monument. It's a consciousness accelerator. Now consider Gothic cathedrals. Their vaulted ceilings soar toward heaven, but the design was about more than beauty. The proportions followed sacred geometry, golden ratios, harmonic intervals, cosmic mathematics. The acoustics create natural reverberations that stimulate alpha brainwaves, inducing calm and openness. Choirs singing in these spaces weren't just making music, they were generating an energetic field that lifted entire congregations into altered states of devotion and awe. What modern people call inspiration was in fact a deliberate neurological effect. And then there is Stonehenge. Far from being a random ring of rocks, it is an astronomical device. During solstices and equinoxes, the stones align perfectly with the sun and moon. These alignments channel specific electromagnetic frequencies. Measurements show changes in human brain chemistry during these events, spikes in melatonin, and even traces of DMT, the same chemical involved in mystical visions. The ancients weren't worshiping at Stonehenge. They were tuning themselves, using cosmic alignments as triggers for expanded states of perception. What links these sites is intent. They weren't designed as houses of religion in the way we think of today. They were laboratories. Their architects were not just priests or masons. They were scientists of consciousness, manipulating sound, proportion, and geometry the way modern engineers manipulate circuits. And just like today's technology, their tools could either elevate or suppress, depending on how they were used. The good news is, you don't need a pyramid in your backyard to access these states. The same principles can be applied on a smaller scale. Sound is one of the most accessible gateways. Tibetan singing bowls, chants, or binaural beats can entrain your brain into theta and delta rhythms within minutes. Frequencies like 528 Hz, often called the love frequency, stimulate heart-centered states. Play 2 tones, one in each ear, with a difference of 4 Hz, and your brain synchronizes into deep meditative states. Ancient initiates had to travel into chambers of stone. Today, you can achieve similar effects with a pair of headphones. Geometry is another key. Arrange your space using golden ratios. Place objects to create balance that resonates with the natural proportions found in nature. Even sitting in the geometric center of a room during meditation can amplify focus. Crystals arranged in specific polyhedral patterns, like the dodecahedron, generate fields that interact with the human biofield. Water, especially when moving, enhances these effects by generating negative ions that boost mental clarity. A simple fountain, positioned intentionally, can create an energy flow that nourishes rather than drains. Plants, too, are not just decoration. Their spirals and leaf patterns mirror sacred geometry and generate measurable electromagnetic fields. Ancient temple complexes always integrated gardens for this reason. Living antennas, tuned to universal harmonics, amplified the energy of rituals. Bringing plants into your meditation space recreates this effect on a smaller but powerful scale. These practices are not about superstition. They are about tuning. Just as you can tune a musical instrument, you can tune your mind, body, and environment. And when you do, the boundaries between ordinary awareness and expanded intelligence begin to blur. Insights arrive unbidden. Intuition sharpens. Creativity surges. You feel connected to something larger, not as belief, but as lived experience. The ancients left these blueprints as reminders. Consciousness is not locked inside your skull. It is a field, and environments can amplify it. Once you understand this, you stop seeing temples and monuments as relics of dead civilizations. You start seeing them as manuals written in stone, teaching us how to unlock states of awareness that modern culture has tried to suppress. And that recognition leads directly to the next revelation. If consciousness can shape and be shaped by space, what happens when we apply that principle not to buildings of stone, but to the quantum fabric of reality itself? The ancients had a word for the cosmic law that governs all existence: ma'at, truth, balance, order. They taught that reality itself bends in response to consciousness aligned with this principle. Thousands of years later, modern physics stumbled onto the same discovery under a new name: the quantum field. Far from being empty space, the field is a sea of infinite potential where every possible outcome already exists, waiting to be called into form. This isn't mystical poetry. It's science. At the subatomic level, particles don't exist as fixed objects. They exist as clouds of probability. Whether they show up as waves or particles depends on a single factor: observation. The famous double-slit experiment demonstrated this beyond doubt. When no one was watching, light behaved like a wave, spreading across possibilities. But when measured, it snapped into a particle, choosing one outcome. The act of conscious observation collapsed the probability field into a specific reality. The ancients said, "The all is mind." Physicists call it the observer effect. Different words, same truth. Consciousness doesn't just perceive reality, it generates it. But here's where most modern manifestation teachings get it wrong. They treat thoughts as magic bullets, as if repeating affirmations alone can bend the universe. The reality is more sophisticated. Thoughts are only the starting point. They generate electromagnetic ripples, but without emotional resonance, the signal is weak. Emotion is the carrier wave, the amplifier that turns a fleeting idea into a command. Gratitude, joy, love. These high coherent states broadcast intentions with clarity, while fear, doubt, or desperation distort the signal and collapse it into noise. Consider how athletes visualize success. The most effective ones don't just imagine winning, they feel it. They embody the exhilaration of crossing the finish line, the sound of the crowd, the pride in their chest. That emotional coherence strengthens the signal until the body and mind align with it as if it were already real. This is why the placebo effect works, not because of empty belief, but because belief fused with emotion becomes causation. The Egyptians practiced speaking things into existence. Today, science explains why. Vibrations from the human voice organize matter at the microscopic level, a field called cymatics. Sound waves create patterns in sand, water, even cells. When intention is carried through voice, especially charged with emotion, it imprints the quantum field with precise patterns. Words are not just communication, they are instruments of creation. Visualization, too, gains power when done correctly. It's not about daydreaming, it's about full sensory immersion. The smell of the environment, the texture under your hands, the soundscape around you, all of it matters. The ancients called this activating the ka, the spiritual double. By embodying the reality you wish to experience, you collapse timelines toward it. But here's the paradox. You can't force it. Desperation creates resistance. The quantum field doesn't respond to grasping, it responds to clarity and openness. Think of tuning a radio. If your hand shakes, the frequency blurs. Only when calm do you lock onto the station. Manifestation works the same way. Set the intention, feel it fully, then release it. Trust the field to respond. And there's another layer: alignment with purpose. The universe distinguishes between ego-driven desires and soul-aligned intentions. You might demand wealth for selfish gain and hit endless roadblocks. But when your intention serves your growth and contributes to others, the field flows with startling ease. This is why ancient teachings stressed ethics alongside power. Creation divorced from truth collapses. Creation aligned with truth expands. Once you understand this, synchronicities stop feeling random. They become feedback, signals that your intention is rippling through the field and reorganizing reality around you. Repeated numbers, perfect timing, unexpected encounters. These are the breadcrumbs showing you that your consciousness is interacting with the code. At the cutting edge, some practitioners experiment with timeline jumping, the idea that multiple versions of reality exist simultaneously, and through alignment, you can step into the one where your desired outcome already exists. Quantum physics suggests this isn't fantasy. All probabilities coexist. By aligning your thoughts and emotions with the version of you who already has what you seek, you shift into that timeline. This is the true secret hidden in temples and tablets, encoded in rituals and symbols. Reality is not fixed. It is participatory. Consciousness is both player and programmer. And once you realize this, life ceases to be a passive experience and becomes a creative act. Which raises the question, if your awakening isn't just personal but collective, what happens when enough people begin to play this game consciously? Your awakening isn't just about you. Every shift you make, every illusion you dismantle, every fear you transmute, sends ripples through the collective field. Jung's idea of the collective unconscious wasn't just a metaphor. It's a living network, a psychic internet binding all minds. When you change yourself, you alter the resonance of the entire web. Scientists call this morphic resonance. Patterns of thought and behavior, once established, become easier for others to access. Think of it like carving a path in the forest. The first person struggles through brush and thorns. The second finds it easier. By the 100th, it's a clear trail. Consciousness works the same way. When you break free from scarcity programming, someone on the other side of the planet finds it easier to do the same, even if they've never heard of you. This is the essence of the 100th monkey effect, the tipping point where individual breakthroughs cascade into collective transformation. History shows us countless examples: civil rights movements, spiritual renaissances, cultural revolutions, all begin with a handful of individuals embodying a new frequency until the field shifts and suddenly millions resonate with it. What seemed radical yesterday becomes obvious today. Your role in this is both humbling and empowering. You don't have to convince the world, debate everyone on social media, or force anyone awake. Simply by embodying truth, by living differently, you anchor that frequency into the field. Others feel it, sometimes subtly, sometimes explosively. Your courage to live authentically becomes a permission slip for countless others to do the same. But let's be clear, living awake in a sleeping world isn't easy. You will encounter resistance. Family members may think you've lost touch. Colleagues may mock your choices. Friends may drift away as your vibration no longer matches theirs. This is the paradox of awakening. The more you align with your authentic self, the less you fit into old systems built on fear, control, and conformity. The danger here is spiritual arrogance, believing you are above others because you see what they don't. True awakening doesn't inflate ego, it dissolves it. The moment you feel superior, you've slipped back into illusion. Remember, everyone is on their path. Some are sprinting, some are crawling, some are asleep. None are wrong. All are necessary to the great unfolding. So how do you live awake without alienating yourself from the world? The key is compassionate detachment. You can love people without adopting their illusions. You can respect their journey without joining their drama. You can stand firm in your truth without needing others to validate it. This balance keeps you grounded and accessible while still radiating the new frequency. Translation is another survival skill. Not everyone understands terms like vibration, synchronicity, or morphic fields, and they don't need to. You can express awakened principles in the language of everyday life. Instead of saying, "I raised my frequency," you might say, "I've been focusing on healthier habits, and I feel more energized." Instead of, "I'm manifesting abundance," you might say, "I've started shifting how I think about money, and opportunities are opening up." The truth carries power even when clothed in simpler words. Practical contribution matters. Awakening isn't an excuse to withdraw from the world. It's a call to participate differently. Conscious businesses, creative projects, healing practices, intentional communities, all of these become conduits for your frequency to ripple outward. When you align with service, the field amplifies your impact far beyond what you can see. And here's the beauty. The tipping point is closer than we think. Studies in systems theory show that when 15 to 20% of a population adopts a new paradigm, the whole system shifts. That's not everyone. It's enough anchors to change the current. Every person who awakens brings us closer to that threshold. Your part may feel small, a single flame in a vast darkness. But in reality, each flame makes the collective fire brighter. Your clarity, your courage, your choices. These aren't private victories. They're contributions to humanity's next evolution. And once enough of us awaken, society itself begins to reconfigure. The systems of control that once seemed immovable start to dissolve. New structures emerge, ones rooted in cooperation, creativity, and consciousness. That's not utopia. It's inevitability. Awakening is not a one-time event. It's a practice, a daily choice to live in alignment even when the world around you pulls in the opposite direction. The moment you open your eyes each morning, you're met with a fork in the road. Slide back into unconscious routines or step deliberately into awareness. That's why the first moments of your day matter so much. They set the frequency for everything that follows. Start with intention. Before touching your phone, before scrolling through news or notifications, take a breath and decide how you want to show up. Not just what you want to do, but how you want to be. A single sentence whispered to yourself, "Today I embody clarity," or "I radiate calm no matter what arises," plants seeds in the subconscious. Throughout the day, situations bend toward that initial command. It's a subtle but profound form of self-programming. Mental hygiene is as crucial as physical hygiene. Just as you wouldn't leave your body unwashed for weeks, don't let your mind collect debris. Media, gossip, fear-based stories, these are psychic pollutants. Limit what you consume and balance every intake with something that nourishes. Inspiring books, nature sounds, meditative silence. Imagine your attention as a diet. Junk in, junk out. Nourishment in, expansion out. The field responds to the quality of your input. Relationships are another training ground. Awakening doesn't make conflict disappear. It changes how you respond. When others project anger or fear, you have a choice. Mirror it back or anchor calm. This doesn't mean tolerating abuse. Boundaries are sacred, but it does mean resisting the reflex to escalate. Meeting unconscious behavior with conscious presence often disarms it. You stop fueling cycles of drama and instead introduce a new rhythm. Over time, even difficult relationships can shift or dissolve based on the frequency you hold. Work is often the trickiest arena. Many awakened individuals feel trapped in jobs that don't align with their values. The temptation is to burn it all down overnight. But awakening is not about reckless escape. It's about conscious transition. If your current role feels misaligned, start by bringing awareness into it. Notice where you can inject authenticity, creativity, or service into tasks that feel mechanical. This shifts your relationship to work and often opens doors towards something more aligned. The path forward reveals itself when you embody the frequency of where you want to go, not when you rage against where you are. Daily practices help anchor this. Meditation remains the cornerstone, not as dogma, but as tuning. Even 10 minutes of stillness recalibrates the nervous system and sharpens perception. Breathwork, yoga, or Tai Chi extend this tuning into the body, weaving awareness into movement. Journaling externalizes inner chaos, creating clarity where thoughts once tangled. Gratitude lists shift attention from lack to abundance, reprogramming the subconscious toward receptivity. None of these require hours. They require consistency. Small, steady acts accumulate into profound transformation. Environment shapes practice too. Design your space with intention. A corner with a candle, a crystal, or a plant can become a portal. Music at harmonic frequencies can turn a room into a sanctuary. Even decluttering is spiritual practice. removing stagnant energy so new patterns can flow. Your environment isn't separate from you. It's an extension of your consciousness. Shape it, and it shapes you back. Living awake also means embracing paradox. Some days you'll feel expanded, in flow, effortlessly aligned. Other days you'll stumble, get triggered, fall into old patterns. That's not failure. It's rhythm, the pendulum swinging, the principle in action. The practice is not perfection. It's return. Every time you notice you've slipped and gently realign, you strengthen the muscle of awareness. Over time, the swings soften, and your center of gravity stabilizes higher. Perhaps the most radical act of conscious living is presence. In a culture addicted to distraction, simply giving your full attention to a moment is revolutionary. Listening deeply to a friend without planning your reply. Eating a meal slowly, tasting every bite. Watching the sky change colors without reaching for your phone. These small acts reclaim sovereignty from a system designed to scatter you. They remind you that awareness is not something you chase. It's something you are. Living awake doesn't mean isolating yourself from the world or pretending to be enlightened. It means walking through the noise with clarity, carrying light into spaces that need it most. It means embodying your truth in ordinary moments until ordinary moments themselves become extraordinary. And when enough individuals live this way, grounded, intentional, present, the collective field shifts. Society doesn't change through speeches or slogans alone. It changes when thousands quietly anchor a new frequency into the fabric of daily life. Every awakening journey has its shadow. After the initial rush of synchronicities, insights, and elevated states, many find themselves plunged into a period of despair, confusion, or emptiness. This phase is so common, it has its own name across traditions: the dark night of the soul. It feels like everything you once relied on, beliefs, relationships, even your sense of self, is dissolving. And in a way, it is. The dark night isn't punishment, it's purification. When old structures collapse, the psyche reacts with grief. Think of it as mourning the death of your former self. The identity that once fit no longer serves, but letting go hurts. You may feel abandoned by spirit, cut off from synchronicities, lost in a void. The high-frequency rush of early awakening quiets, leaving silence that feels unbearable. Many mistake this as regression. In truth, it's integration. Psychologically, the dark night surfaces everything suppressed: childhood wounds, unresolved trauma, hidden fears. You might find yourself overwhelmed by emotions you thought you'd already healed: anger, shame, grief. Patterns you believed you had transcended come roaring back. The ego clings desperately, trying to rebuild its identity. This collapse can feel like failure, but it's the exact opposite. It's the dismantling of illusions, so truth can take root. Physically, the body reacts too. Fatigue, insomnia, strange aches, even flu-like symptoms often accompany this stage. Your nervous system is recalibrating, detoxing not just physically, but energetically. Old energies purge through the body, sometimes violently. You may crave solitude, withdraw from social life, or feel hypersensitive to sound and light. The body demands stillness, so the spirit can rebuild. Spiritually, doubt sets in. The practices that once lit you up, meditation, prayer, rituals, suddenly feel empty. Synchronicities vanish. The universe feels silent. This is the crucible. Will you continue seeking truth even when there's no reward? Can you trust the process when guidance disappears? This stage breaks dependency on external signs and anchors awareness in inner resilience. The danger of the dark night is mistaking it for permanent collapse. Many give up, numb themselves with distractions, or regress into old habits. But if you endure, if you stay present with the pain without fleeing, the night eventually shifts. Slowly, light returns, not as fleeting highs, but as steady clarity. The ego loosens its grip, the heart softens. A deeper trust emerges, one not based on signs, but on direct knowing. How do you navigate this passage? First, surrender. Fighting prolongs the pain. Allow yourself to grieve, rage, or weep without judgment. See the darkness not as enemy, but as midwife. Second, ground in the basics. Sleep, nourishment, movement, and nature become lifelines. Even small rituals, a candle lit, a walk outside, remind the nervous system of stability. Third, seek support. Isolation intensifies the spiral, but honest conversation with trusted allies can ease the weight. Sometimes, simply being witnessed breaks the illusion of aloneness. Creativity also helps. Journaling, painting, music. Any form of expression allows emotions to flow without words. The dark night is often less about finding answers and more about releasing energy. Art becomes alchemy, transforming raw pain into beauty. Finally, hold on to perspective. Every mystic, every sage, every awakened teacher has endured this valley. It is not a detour, it is the path. Darkness clears the ground for a stronger foundation. Just as forests burn so new growth can emerge, the psyche burns so the soul can expand. When the night lifts, what remains is unshakable. You stop depending on external validation. You stop fearing loss. You realize that who you truly are cannot be destroyed. From this depth, compassion blooms. Having faced your own shadow, you can hold space for others in theirs. You become less reactive, more resilient, more authentic. And with that new clarity, you begin to see not just personal patterns, but collective ones. You recognize that humanity itself is moving through its own dark night. Systems collapsing, illusions dissolving, shadows surfacing. Which means the question shifts from, how do I survive this? To, how do we, together, navigate the collective night and guide it into dawn? What you've experienced on an individual level, the collapse of illusions, the purging of wounds, the silence before rebirth, is now playing out across the entire planet. Humanity is passing through its own dark night of the soul. The symptoms are everywhere. Political chaos, environmental collapse, economic instability, social division. To those still locked inside the old paradigm, it feels like the world is unraveling. To those with awakened eyes, it looks like initiation. Old systems built on exploitation are cracking. Governments designed for control wobble under their own corruption. Economic models rooted in endless growth hit natural limits. Religious structures that once held absolute authority lose their grip as seekers discover truth beyond dogma. Media once trusted to inform now reveals itself as propaganda. Every institution shows its shadow. This unveiling is painful, but necessary. Just as you had to face your own shadow, humanity must confront its collective one. Fear thrives in collapse. You see it in headlines predicting disaster, in conspiracy theories stoking panic, in neighbors turning against each other. Fear is the ego of the collective, clinging desperately to what it knows. Yet collapse also creates space for something new. Just as the forest regenerates after fire, civilization can only evolve after outdated structures burn. The dark night clears what no longer serves. Look closer, and signs of dawn are already here. Communities experimenting with decentralized systems, farmers restoring soil through regenerative practices, innovators creating clean technologies once dismissed as fantasy, spiritual traditions once hidden emerging into mainstream dialogue, people seeking therapy, meditation, plant medicine, and holistic practices to heal wounds at their root. Beneath the noise of collapse, seeds of a new world are germinating. The shift won't be instant. Just as your personal dark night took time to integrate, humanity's will too. There will be setbacks, flare-ups, moments of despair, but the trajectory is irreversible. Once truth is seen, it cannot be unseen. Once people realize they are not powerless, no amount of propaganda can erase that knowledge. What's on the other side? A civilization more attuned to the principles we've been exploring. Mentalism, recognition that thought and intention shape reality. Correspondence, awareness that our treatment of nature mirrors our treatment of ourselves. Vibration, technologies and arts designed to harmonize, not agitate. Polarity, differences viewed as spectrum, not as enemies. Rhythm, an economy and culture built to flow with cycles instead of resisting them. Cause and effect, accountability embedded into leadership and community. Gender, balance of masculine drive with feminine nurture in both individuals and institutions. This isn't utopia. It won't erase challenges or suffering, but it will transform how we meet them. Instead of systems that exploit crisis for profit, we'll create systems that use crisis as catalyst for growth. Instead of fearing the unknown, we'll embrace it as potential. Instead of clinging to illusions, we'll align with truth. That is the promise of collective awakening. Your role in this transition is vital. By embodying awakened living in your own life, you become a stabilizer in the field. Your clarity grounds others in chaos. Your compassion softens division. Your creativity offers alternatives when old systems crumble. You don't have to lead a movement to contribute. Simply by living authentically, you ripple into the collective, helping guide humanity through the night. And while the future is unwritten, one truth stands firm. Dawn always follows darkness. The only variable is how gracefully we cross the threshold. Will we resist, dragging pain and fear into the new age? Or will we surrender, allowing old structures to die so new ones can rise? That choice belongs to all of us, individually and together. The ancients knew that after every collapse comes rebirth. Cycles don't end, they renew. Which brings us to the next step, learning to consciously participate in those cycles of rebirth, to become architects of the new instead of victims of the old. Every collapse opens space for creators. As the old structures dissolve, the question becomes, who will build what comes next? The answer isn't governments, corporations, or institutions. It's us, the awakened individuals who recognize that reality itself is malleable. Humanity is standing at a threshold, and the ones who step forward with vision will become architects of the new world. The first tool of architecture is intention. We've already seen how thought fused with emotion shapes reality on the personal level. Now imagine groups of people aligning intentions together. Studies on collective meditation show measurable reductions in crime and violence when large numbers focus on peace. The Maharishi effect demonstrated that just 1% of a population practicing coherence could shift the entire community's field. If a handful of people in a city can create measurable change, what could millions across the globe do if united in purpose? Communities are already experimenting with this. Circles gather to meditate, chant, or visualize planetary healing. Small groups meet regularly to set intentions not just for personal growth, but for collective transformation. Online movements synchronize mass meditations at eclipses, solstices, and planetary alignments. Skeptics dismiss it as coincidence, yet patterns show otherwise. The field responds when humans harmonize. We are not isolated sparks. We are nodes in a global web of consciousness, but intention alone is not enough. Architecture requires structure. That structure emerges through community. Ancient mystery schools knew this. They didn't just teach principles, they embedded them into communal life. Meals, rituals, labor, and art all became vehicles of alignment. Today's intentional communities, eco-villages, and decentralized networks are rediscovering this wisdom. When people live together with shared values, the environment itself reinforces growth. Every conversation, every collaboration, every shared practice becomes reinforcement of the field. Energy is another frontier of architecture. The old paradigm runs on extraction, burning finite resources, depleting ecosystems, enslaving labor. The new paradigm experiments with resonance, drawing on the inherent abundance of the universe. Breakthroughs in clean technology, zero-point energy, and bioharmonics hint at a future where power flows in harmony with nature. Nikola Tesla once said, "If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." That wasn't metaphor. It was blueprint. The next civilization will be built on technologies that resonate instead of exploit. And architecture is not limited to technology. Culture itself is an energy system. Every story we tell, every symbol we circulate, every piece of art we create charges the field with possibility. Myths shape behavior. Music sets collective rhythm. Symbols anchor shared meaning. When you create art infused with consciousness, you are not just expressing, you are programming the collective. The ancients painted their temples with symbolic codes for this very reason. Our murals, films, and digital art can serve the same role if created with awareness. Leadership will also change. The old model worships hierarchy, power concentrated at the top, trickling down through control. The new model mirrors nature, networks, ecosystems, mycelial webs. Leadership becomes facilitation, not domination. Power flows laterally, with individuals holding authority in areas of mastery and contributing to the whole. This is already visible in decentralized technologies like blockchain, where trust emerges not from central control, but from transparent collaboration. Perhaps the most radical act of architecture is reclaiming time. The old system traps us in endless urgency: work hours, news cycles, productivity metrics. The new system honors rhythm. Seasons, lunar cycles, circadian patterns become the calendar. Work flows with natural peaks and rests instead of grinding endlessly. Creativity surges when we honor cycles. Burnout fades when we align with flow. The ancients built entire festivals around these rhythms. Modern life can rediscover them. The architects of the new reality are not superheroes. They are ordinary people choosing differently, daily, planting regenerative gardens instead of lawns, launching conscious businesses instead of extractive ones, creating art that heals instead of distracts, meditating together, learning together, building together. Each act may seem small, but collectively they form the scaffolding of a civilization in emergence. And here's the paradox. The more you participate in building the new, the less grip the old has on you. Fear loses its hold. Scarcity narratives dissolve. You stop waiting for permission and start living as if the new world already exists. Because in truth, it does. It's already here, seated in every choice we make. The question isn't whether humanity will rebuild. The question is, what blueprint we'll choose. And those who understand the ancient principles, the sacred mathematics, the quantum field, they hold the tools to draw that blueprint. Which means the next step is clear. to learn how to wield those tools deliberately as conscious creators of reality itself. It's one thing to marvel at ancient principles or discuss the quantum field in theory. It's another to apply them to everyday life, your body, your finances, your relationships. This is where awakening becomes tangible. The same forces that shape galaxies also shape your health, your bank account, your connections. The key is learning to work with them deliberately. Start with health. Every cell in your body listens to thought and emotion. When you bombard yourself with fear, resentment, or hopelessness, your nervous system floods with cortisol and adrenaline, weakening immunity and accelerating disease. This isn't woo, it's biochemistry. Conversely, states of gratitude, joy, and forgiveness trigger cascades of dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, hormones that repair tissue, boost resilience, and enhance longevity. Countless studies confirm what the ancients taught. The mind programs the body. That's why visualization of healing, seeing organs glowing with light, picturing wounds mending, often accelerates recovery. Hospitals dismiss this as placebo, but placebo isn't fake. It's proof of the mind's authority over matter. Nutrition becomes more than calories. It becomes vibration. Fresh, living foods carry coherent energy. Processed, dead foods carry noise. When you shift diet from industrial to natural, you're not just fueling the body, you're tuning it. Water, especially structured or blessed with intention, carries information into your cells. Ancient cultures prayed over food and drink for this reason. It wasn't superstition. It was coding. Now, consider money. Most people live in scarcity, not because abundance doesn't exist, but because their subconscious runs programs of lack. I never have enough. Money is evil. I'm not worthy. These thoughts aren't just ideas, they're frequencies. The field mirrors them back as blocked opportunities, constant struggle, and financial stress. Reprogramming begins with awareness. Track your inner dialogue. Catch every thought of lack. Replace it with chosen codes. I am a magnet for aligned wealth. Money flows where value flows. Abundance supports my purpose. But affirmations only work when paired with emotion. Feel the reality of financial ease as if it's already true. Imagine paying bills joyfully, supporting loved ones, funding projects that inspire. The emotion charges the signal. Then, take action in alignment. Opportunities won't materialize if you ignore them. The field opens doors, but you must walk through. Trust and action together create momentum. Relationships are laboratories for these principles. Every partner, friend, or family member is a mirror. Conflict isn't punishment, it's feedback. If someone triggers anger, ask, what unhealed part of me is being reflected? If someone inspires love, ask, what part of me is awakening through them? This doesn't excuse abuse or toxicity. Boundaries are sacred. But it does mean that every encounter carries encoded lessons. See relationships this way, and even heartbreak becomes initiation. Conscious relationships thrive on vibration. Partners who meditate together, share gratitude, and align intentions often report deeper intimacy and synchronicities guiding their union. They stop seeing love as accident and start seeing it as co-creation. Sex itself becomes alchemy. Ancient practices of Tantra and Taoism taught that sexual energy, directed with intention, fuels creativity and even healing. In modern terms, it's vibrational synergy, the blending of fields amplifying each other. These principles extend to career. Instead of chasing status or salary, align with purpose. Ask not, what job will make me money? But, what expression of my gifts serves the whole? When aligned, money and opportunity flow naturally. When misaligned, burnout and frustration signal the field's resistance. The universe rewards authenticity because it sustains harmony. A practical framework emerges: clarity, emotion, alignment, and surrender. Clarity defines the intention. Emotion fuels it. Alignment expresses it through action. Surrender releases attachment, trusting the field to orchestrate the outcome. Skip any step, and the signal weakens. Master them, and you begin creating deliberately instead of unconsciously. None of this means life becomes effortless. Challenges still come, but challenges transform from punishment into guidance. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "What is this teaching me?" That shift alone turns obstacles into allies. The ancients encoded these truths in myth and ritual. Modern science validates them in labs. Together, they form a unified language of creation, one that can heal bodies, transform finances, deepen relationships, and build societies. You don't need temples or gurus. You need awareness, intention, and practice, because in the end, every moment is creation. Every thought, every word, every act shapes the field. The question isn't whether you're creating. The question is whether you're creating consciously. And once you begin, the final piece of the puzzle emerges. Not just creating for yourself, but co-creating with others, weaving personal power into collective transformation. We've seen how a single person can shift their reality by aligning thought, emotion, and action. But the real magic begins when individuals come together. Collective creation is more than teamwork. It's resonance. When a group synchronizes intention, their combined field produces results far beyond what any one of them could achieve alone. It's exponential, not additive. Think of a choir. A single voice is beautiful, but when dozens sing in harmony, the sound becomes transcendent. The air itself vibrates differently. Listeners feel goosebumps, even tears, because the collective resonance taps into something primal. Now imagine the same principle applied not to music, but to consciousness. That's what group intention does. It amplifies, harmonizes, and magnifies the signal. Experiments prove this. Studies in cities around the world have shown that when groups meditate on peace, crime rates drop, accidents decline, and even political tensions ease. These aren't isolated anomalies. They've been replicated again and again. The Maharishi effect, first documented in the 1970s, demonstrated that just 1% of a population practicing coherence influenced the whole. Modern research in heart-brain synchronization confirms it. Collective states ripple outward, measurable in electromagnetic fields. But this isn't limited to meditation retreats or spiritual gatherings. Collective creation can happen anywhere. A family dinner where gratitude is spoken aloud. A workplace that begins meetings with a moment of silence. A group of friends aligning on a shared dream. The form doesn't matter. What matters is coherence. People aligning not just their words, but their emotions and energy. Technology adds new dimensions. Online communities now synchronize meditations during eclipses, solstices, or global crises. Tens of thousands tune in across continents, creating fields of resonance that can be felt physically by participants. Some report surges of heat, tingling in the body, or waves of emotion that arrive out of nowhere. Others describe sudden synchronicities in their daily lives after participating, as if the group field reorganized their personal timelines. Ancient traditions hinted at this power. Ceremonies, rituals, and festivals weren't just cultural entertainment. They were collective technologies. Drumming circles entrained heartbeats. Dances synchronized breath. Chants aligned minds. These weren't accidents. They were deliberate tools for binding communities into coherent fields. In those states, tribes felt connected not only to each other, but to the cosmos itself. Modern science now explains what the ancients intuited. Coherence creates order, and order influences reality. This is why oppressive systems fear gatherings. Whether it's banning drumming, censoring assembly, or replacing ritual with passive consumption, the strategy is the same. Prevent people from aligning their energy. Isolated individuals are manageable. Coherent groups are unstoppable. When people remember they can weave reality together, no hierarchy can contain them. So how do we practice collective creation today? It begins with clarity. A group must define what it's aligning toward. Vague wishes scatter energy. Specific, soul-aligned intentions focus it. Next comes coherence. Breathwork, meditation, chanting. Any practice that unifies brainwaves and heart rhythms prepares the field. Then comes embodiment. Participants must feel the outcome as if it's already real. Finally, surrender. The group releases control, trusting the field to organize the details. This framework has been used for healing circles where patients recover faster than predicted. It has sparked creative breakthroughs in teams who align before brainstorming. It has shifted conflicts when opposing groups sit in silence together. The method is simple, but the impact is profound. And here's the most important point. Collective creation isn't just about producing outcomes. It's about remembering who we are. We are not isolated egos competing for survival. We are cells in a planetary organism meant to collaborate, harmonize, and evolve together. When we practice collective creation, we practice being human at our highest potential. The more groups engage in this, the faster the collective field transforms. What begins as small ripples, families, circles, communities, expands into waves that sweep across cultures. Eventually, the tipping point arrives. Enough coherence to shift humanity's trajectory as a whole. And that leads us to the final step of this journey. Visioning the dawn of the next era. What life looks like once awakening scales from the personal to the planetary.